Due diligence is so important. Anytime we invest in an investment, I mean, we should treat it more serious than an interview, right? Because, I mean, this person is putting our hard-earned money, potentially years of work, and they're putting it to work under their management. And so anytime someone's stewarding my money as an operator, we have a due diligence questionnaire, and I encourage every family to have their own. And when we're managing institutional capital for clients, we have a very lengthy due diligence process.
Hello. Ginny Bolling here with the Pivotal REI Podcast, the real estate investing podcast. And we were formerly known as Pivot to Prosperity. But today we have Andrew McNair here for us. And thank you for coming on, Andrew. Appreciate it.
Oh, I'm glad to be here. I'm excited about today's show.
Well, you have a lot of time in front of a camera. Holy moly. You definitely are an expert in this industry with how to not only deal with media, it seems like, but you also have been into the financial world since you were age 14, right?
Yes,
Amazing.
I guess I needed that much time to learn, or some kind of Doogie Howser situation, but it is my life's calling to help families with their finances. So, yep, since I was 14.
It sounds like it. And then when you look at from there and how much you have had the involvement, I don't know if it's all entirely you donating. How much was it? It's like, how much?
You try not to keep track, the left hand not to know what the right hand, but somewhere $10-12 million, something like that.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of money. Yes. Well, so please tell us, how did you end up getting into the financial world, and how does that fit with the real estate piece that, as you know, that I live?
Yeah. So, I mean, real estate starts off at 14. I was handed a purple book by my dad. My dad was a CSRS federal employee, and he chose a really secure job being a federal employee to, put food on the table for 4 kids. And so I really appreciate the sacrifice he made. And so my dad was really rich in the things that matter, like integrity and faith, but he was poor in education and finance. Like, that's not a subject that the greatest generation, like my grandparents, talked about. And so my dad was very sincere and transparent. He said, do as I say and read this book, but don't do as I've done. And so do better financially. And so he handed me the book, and I read it and I took it to heart. And so when I read that book for the first time, it's so true that the two things that change your life are the books that you read and the people that you meet. And so I started peppering him about financial topics, and he said, I can introduce you to a local financial advisor. And so that's where I would intern for all my high school, entering at a financial firm. And then taking what I learned at that financial firm, I was waiting tables on the weekends. I'd saved up $62,000, and I doubled it into $147,000 in the stock market. Now I'm 18 years old, and 2008 is fast approaching. And I'm thinking this might be the best time to buy a duplex in cash. And so it was a $70,000 duplex, not much deferred maintenance. I walked it with my realtor. And again, I'm 18. I'm about to pay for it in cash. And I said, I'm going to take one more puff of this cigarette butt of this company that's fallen on hard times, and I'm going to double my money one more time to $300,000, and so I can buy 4 duplexes. And the best or the worst thing that ever happened to me is I lost all of that money. Now, I mean, that's pretty hard to do, is to lose all your money. I lost all of it in that stock market investment. And that's where I made the decision that, one, I would never lose money ever again that I hadn't first given away, because you can't lose what you've given away. And 2, I would always practice what I preach about, diversification. And so that's where my love for real estate began, when I was 14, and I wasn't able to really invest into real estate till a few years later. And then by 25, I had 25 houses. So, and then the rest is history with my real estate career.
Wait, and so this is going to tie in. What is the takeaway you want people to have from this podcast?
Well, the takeaway is, if you are meeting with a financial advisor or a financial planner and they're not pro real estate, both passive and active real estate, you're going to have a hard decision after this show. Do you keep your same financial planner or advisor, or do you go on the hunt for a new one that is pro real estate? Because I do believe real estate has its place in your retirement portfolio when you go to retire.
Right. And the typical audience would think I have you on here just to talk about real estate, but you are not 100% real estate. You are a financial advisor, right?
I am. I am a wealth manager. We have a financial planning firm that specializes in retirees. And so we manage public market proprietary portfolios as well as private funds in real estate, as well as oil and energy. So no, we do manage money outside of real estate.
And I know this is kind of putting you on the spot, but all else being equal, since you can't know what somebody's assets are, and that makes all the difference in the world, what every person has going for them, generally speaking, what would be the allocation you'd be looking at between real estate and other stuff that you and I just talked about before recording?
Yeah, when I'm meeting with, let's say, a retiree that has $1 million or $2 million, typically we're going to have some form of assets, typically 30 to 60% in what we refer to as wall accounts. Wall accounts, like a fiscal house, is foundational accounts. Those are assets that are tied to fixed investments that are tied to interest rates. You want to have some money that's in the roof that's going to have all the fun while it's sunlight and sunny outside, but the ones that take the most hurricane damage if there is a financial storm on the horizon. But you need to have wall accounts, and that's where the real estate investments that you talk about every day and the real estate investments I talk about every day live. And so 30 to 60% we recommend in those walls accounts because they're insulated from the general stock market. And so we generally would say 10 to 20% should go into, no more than that, should go into passive real estate. And then if you wanted to add in active real estate, meaning you manage your own rental properties, then you could actually skew that higher. But typically 10 to 20% in passive real estate investments of that 30 to 60 blend of wall accounts that I was referencing.
Terrific. I think that's helpful. And so far as oil and gas and some of those other types of investments, any commentary you want to add for those?
Certainly. So with alternatives like oil, private credit, we would also limit those to 10 to 20%. And so if you got your calculator out, so 2020, that would leave another potentially, 20% that we would use other instruments, everything from buffered ETFs to index CDs to index annuities and puts and options, anything that zigs when the market zags. And then I would generally have another 30 or so to 50% of what's left in the roof accounts. Those are public markets. So again, a lot of people are anti the stock market, and they've probably gone too far into their love and mania for real estate. I do believe public markets are great because, Tim Cook has never called me and asked me about what I thought of Apple and how the direction it was going. But what has is my rental properties have called me when someone had literally stole the light bulbs out. They have sadly I've had someone burn my house down accidentally. I've had someone burn it down intentionally. I did get the phone calls on those.
I meant to get back to I saw that. Would you elaborate?
Where would you like me to begin? I mean, this is the things that you have to understand. If you're not going to work with someone that is a JV or someone that is bringing you onto a property that's well vetted, you're doing this due diligence as you're actively managing real estate. When people refer to real estate as passive, I always kind of chuckle. Unless you're investing in a fund or you're investing along with a limited partnership, you are absolutely active. And this is where I'm sitting down with clients and saying, hey, do you have the time to devote to managing a business? No, I just want to buy rental properties. That's a business. Do you have time? No, I don't have time. Do you have the temperament? What do you mean by that? Well, I've had someone murdered in my property. I've had someone murdered in the front yard. I've had someone burn it down accidentally. I've had people run nefarious and bad organizations through some of my properties that I had to clean out when I purchased them. And so if you don't have the temperament for that, you might not be cut out for real estate. And then the last, like we talked off air, is do you have the financial acumen? Do you understand what an ROI is, an ROA, the cash on cash return, cap rates? And if you don't understand these statistics and these stats when you're running the property, you might just watch an HGTV show and say, wow, that thing needs some love and attention. And I look at it from the financials and say, it needs more than love and attentions. You need a completely new address because the numbers don't work.
Terrific. So true. So true. And yeah, we have on our side as syndicators and active and passive fund managers bringing anybody into deals. It's so important to make sure that they understand that they've got to do their own due diligence, no matter how much they are leaning on us to do it too. So I totally agree with that. What are your causes, your pet causes? Because you give away a lot of money. It would be great to share with people what it is that you care about.
Thank you for asking. So I talk about this in my book, The Giving Crisis, that many times the goalpost for us financially continues to move. No matter the income we make, the assets and the net worth we accumulate, it can leave us feeling empty. And so I talk about my story from greedy to generous, how, I did, pulled up my bootstraps, if you will, and accumulated those houses and even more houses, and we're able to grow our wealth management firm pretty successfully, but it left me unfulfilled. And so I share in my book how we ended up giving all of the homes up to, it was like 40 homes. We gave all the proceeds of selling those homes to our charitable LLC so that we could do our charitable ventures to the Samaritan's Purse and Native Missions and some of the other charities we're very passionate about. And so I talk about in that book that as your income grows, as your net worth grows, I would be creating a plan to increase your giving over time. Instead of waiting till you die to leave all these assets behind, you can find so much fulfillment from giving while you're living.
Right, right. I bet you get into a lot of donor advised funds as well, don't you?
Yeah, we definitely talk about those and qualified charitable distributions, because if most of our clients, once they reach age 70, they probably don't give more than $111,000 a year away. And so if they have money that's trapped in an IRA or 401k or TSP, they actually can use through an IRA that qualified charitable distribution to give up to $111,000 a year without having to pay any taxes, which I love Roth IRAs. I love tax-free investments, but nothing's better than never paying taxes.
True. Very true. Let me ask you this too. Do you do or recommend anything about the whole life insurance policies for your clients?
Yeah, so I've always been very agnostic with investments. A lot of people come from a camp. Their father was a stockbroker, their mother was an insurance salesman, their cousin was a banker. And I believe that they all have merit. And if anyone ever tells you that IUL is the best thing since sliced bread or that it's terrible, usually they have an agenda. You can wait for them to pull out their peddling, Swiss watches and some sort of long-term care policy or something to sell. I think IULs absolutely can be used for infinite banking if done correctly. I personally have life insurance policies with death benefits of $33 million that I've invested millions of dollars into. So life insurance policies can be used if they're structured and engineered correctly. Now, this is why it's important to work with an independent fiduciary, because not all companies are created equally. And the thing is I can engineer that policy to pay me very well or pay a client very well, which is unfortunate if it's not done and engineered in a way to maximize cash value, but commissions. That's inappropriate in my humble opinion.
Thank you for that. That's important. Very much so. So talk about, before we have to sign off here, the books that you've written.
Yeah, I have two books. I've wrote a few books, but the two books that I'm very proud of is The Giving Crisis. I spent a year just mapping out my story from going from greedy to generous and the life change and the transformation it made in my life. And really it took that greed out of my sales by giving. And then the other book that I think would be applicable for anyone that's listening to this podcast would be The Black Swan Investor. And this Black Swan Investor Handbook is really helpful because I talk about where real estate and private equity and other investments should be positioned in your financial plan. And so all of that's available on Amazon or our website. Our website's very easy. It's Sleep Well at Night. Capital, Swan-Capital is what our company name is. So swan-capital.com. And that's what it stands for.
That's terrific. That is. And Swan represents what?
Sleep well at night. I mean, that's what we all want. No matter if we're investing in real estate or public markets or oil, we just want to sleep well at night.
That's true. So true. And once again, before I get into the final question, your takeaway for people that are listening is what?
if you don't have a financial planner that is not pro real estate, both passive or active, you might need to go on the hunt for a new financial advisor. And again, they might be a nice person, nice guy, nice gal, but you want someone that understands the importance of having a completely different asset class, even one that they don't get compensated on, a part of your portfolio.
And so if we talk syndication specifically, since that's what I do mainly, is if I were working with you, for instance, or I told you about a syndication I am working on, would you vet it if it met with your own well, what are your standards, and would you offer it to anybody, I guess, is really the better question.
Yeah, I mean, due diligence is so important. Anytime we invest in an investment, I mean, we should treat it more serious than an interview, right? Because, I mean, this person is putting our hard-earned money, potentially years of work, and they're putting it to work under their management. And so anytime someone's stewarding my money as an operator, we have a due diligence questionnaire, and I encourage every family to have their own. And when we're managing institutional capital for clients, we have a very lengthy due diligence process that you don't want to skimp on, that you want to continually add over time to, and make sure that you're putting your capital in the hands of the person that you're hiring, because they better specialize in the work that they do, right? If someone is a specialization in multifamily or storage or flex industrial, I want them to be the specialist in their area. I don't want them to be the generalist, ideally.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. Well, so now, Anne, as I ask everybody, is there a pivotal person or event that's brought you to where you are now or pushing you towards some particular goal?
We started it with that famous quote that the two things that change your life are the books that you meet and the people that you meet and the books that you read. And my life is no different. There was a local financial advisor that took the time to invest in my life. And he made an offer that I think more business owners should, one, be on the receiving end and also on the giving end. Is he said, I will teach you everything you need to know about money, but I'm going to pay you $0 an hour. You're lucky to be here, and I'm going to teach you everything you need to know. And he delivered on that promise. And again, he got some free labor out of it, probably not good quality free labor, but he got some free labor out of it. But more importantly, he made a ripple into the next generation. And that's what life is about. It's about relationships at the end of the day that we invest in. And so we can invest in properties, we can invest in investments and get a great return. But the best leverage we can do is investing in people, because they create these ripple effects that are going to be felt for generations to come.
Very good. Very good. Now, do you want to say who that is and nominate them, or is it better to not to? It's up to you.
You know what? I didn't get his permission, so I will keep him a secret. But okay. He's a gentleman that I think so highly of. And so, okay. And I hope that is an inspiration to you to be that person in someone else's life.
Hey, there you go. Pay it forward, right? All right. Well, also tell people how they can reach you, please.
Yeah, please check out my podcast. It's the Rich, Young, and Powerful Podcast. It's the play on the Rich, Young Ruler. We've had great guests from athletes like Kurt Warner, from musicians like Chris Tomlin, come on our podcast and share about the foundations that they care about. You can check out and find out all the information you need to know about my TV show, radio show, blogs, and everything at swan-capital.com. And really, it's just a privilege to be on this, to share some time with you and our love for real estate.
Very good. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I would recommend people reach out to you and get a chance to connect and follow you. I mean, there's a lot of things I'm sure that you don't even realize how you're educating with all that you're doing.
I would hope so.
Thank you much. Hats off. All right. Thank you.